So let's talk about that, Ren, because you have been doing PMU 5 years.
Yes.
You've been doing.
I definitely lay in that category.
You are in that category, and you talk about your generation of artists quite often. But I think with you, yes, you do single needle. You love single needle. You love 3 liners. You love 8 shade. You love lots of needles.
Yeah.
You don't box yourself in, but you do all that new type of work, right?
Yes.
With the single needle, whip shading, maybe a little, do you go a little shallow or do you still go proper depth?
I still go proper depth.
So you do go proper depth. You don't work shallow, which I think is important.
Yeah.
And should be the goal of all artists to get to that proper depth. But you do light saturation if that's what the client wants. But you also do medium saturation, and you can do high saturation, and you do if that's what your client came in request.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about why, like what happened? Why does this whole part of the industry look down upon high saturation work? And they look down upon the artist as maybe as that artist being dated or not talented. So let's talk about why do you think that happened? And then how did you end up different than that?
So everything anymore is you got to see the pixels. The pixels, you got to zoom in on the pixels. You got to get the aloe vera gel and you need to lay it on the client's skin.
It's all marketing.
You got to do the satisfying reel. And so because there was so many people in the last 5 or 6 years now dated, this is only my opinion. This is just my perspective of what I've observed and what I've watched happen. But this maybe have more details added to it. But from what I've seen is everybody is just focusing on the pixels. The pixels have to be so pretty. And it's kind of turned into more of like quote unquote satisfying content. And so I see a lot of people and a lot of artists, and I used to do this too before I became too educated on needles. And you can see, once you do a certain set amount of clients, you can tell what their skin type is by looking at a video. You can tell that they have super thick hair or that they have really big pores or their skin is too oily. And you're like, yeah, it looks gorgeous right now, but it's not going to heal too well, right?
Right.
And so I feel like that's just the main focus of what's happened. And now my younger generation, because, I'm a 2000s baby and have a lot of people between 18 to 25 who come in and all they want is pixels, because now that's what we think the only standard is for PMU.
Right.
And there's not too many people that are educated on anything more than a 5 or more than just doing whip shading at 90 degrees. Nobody knows how to do the shoveling. Nobody knows how to circle anything into the skin. Or if they do it at a very low voltage that still gives that pixel effect.
Yeah.
And it's a very shallow, and we all work differently. And my personal opinion is as long as you do everything good and you're clean while you're doing it, and that, you're respecting the client and the client's wishes, then there's really no wrong way of doing it as long as your work is symmetrical, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah. And I have zero problem with low saturation work. Trying to look, if you want to tattoo eyebrows for content, right? Like, I think what I see a lot, and this has been a topic of conversation with artists, a lot of my colleagues, and that the new generation of artists, and not all of them, but a large percentage of them, right? There's this huge part of the industry now, and it tends to be the younger artists who feel that the client should leave. When that client leaves, that brow needs to look like it's healed, like no bleeding, no pink, no swelling, no nothing.
And it's not realistic.
No, that's not realistic, because that either like a lot of that falls out, or they're doing multiple sessions to achieve the level of saturation the client wants. But there's this mindset that when the client leaves, that brow has to look like it has not been tattooed.
Yeah.
It has to look like it's healed. And that's crazy to me. And I have no problem. Actually, admire single needle work and pixels and a lot of these beautiful brows. I admire it. It's not my forte. It's not really what I do, but I admire it because it's beautiful. What bothers me and why I wanted to talk about it is when artists like myself, Amber, like so many artists, when we're putting out and posting higher saturation work, some people are really mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're mean and they feel that it's wrong. Do you know, they just feel it's wrong. It shouldn't look that solid. It shouldn't be that red. It shouldn't be, and that's what bothers me. But look, there's two ways. There's more than two ways. There's lots of different ways to approach a brow, but let's talk about two ways, right?
Okay.
So there's my way, and a lot of people work my way, my kind of style of work. And that's where first session, I go in, proper depth. I'm using a combination of circles, whip shading, pendulum, shoveling, right? I use all four of those. And I want that brow to heal with the amount of saturation that client requested on the first session, if at all possible.
Right.
Right? So the way I work, and so many other artists, my freshly done powder brows look too solid. I'm the first one to say it. That's why I don't post a lot of my freshly done brows, because I look at it, I'm like, oh, hell no, that looks way too solid.
Right.
That's going to scare clients and a bunch of my peers and my industry people are going to jump on me and put me on notice, which that shouldn't be, right? We should all be supporting each other, but that happens. But in 7 to 10 days, my brow that looks too solid when they leave, and it's not really postable when they leave, in 7 to 10 days, that brow is absolutely gorgeous.
And they're good for 2 years.
And yes, and I do very little touch-up work. Most times, a second session is not needed. It heals with the level of saturation that client requested, whether it's low, medium, or high saturation. And it's beautiful. I mean, the edges are soft. It looks so beautiful. So with that type of approach to brows, eyeliner, lips, it's the healed work that looks really beautiful, and the freshly done, admittedly, can look, too solid, too swollen. Like lips and eyeliners sometimes can get swollen, with that type of approach,
right,
or whatnot. Okay. But then there's the other way to approach, and that's to go in a little shallow, super light saturation, make sure there's no pinprick, no bleeding, no pinkness, no nothing like that. And that's okay if that's the way you want to work. That's okay if that's the way you want to work. Super postable. That type of work, fresh, postable, looks beautiful on Instagram. Right? Great content, clients happy. But, and I'm just putting this out there, we don't see a lot of healed results from that kind of approach. And that kind of approach does require sometimes multiple sessions to achieve the level of saturation. And someone just pointed this out to me, one of my good friends, and I think it was Jen Boyd, and because we were talking about this as well. And on the boards on Facebook, one of the most common posts and requests for help is color retention.
Yeah.
They're
I just saw one the other night.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's constant. They're posting pictures of their work and all the colors falling out, or it's healing with barely their color. And so, although there's this standard going on in the industry right now, right? It must look super presentable and perfect when it leaves. And anybody doing high saturation work is getting blasted. Even though that's going on, there's this other whole thing going on where artists being taught that low saturation technique, they're having color retention problems like crazy.
Yeah.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that in the world that we are right now, we are living in a social media world where body tattoo artists are required to have most of their pictures be healed work, and permanent makeup artists are required to have their work be fresh, that's posted. And nobody's really accounting or thinking of what is going to look best healed anymore. And I think a lot of people are starting to come into light with that,
They are.
we really need to just focus on what is going to look like when it's healed. Immediately after, it can look fantastic on anybody, regardless of your skin type or what would fit better to do with you.
Yeah.
It's going to look fantastic no matter what.
Well, I posted a solid black eyeliner, which everybody from all over the country. I get people from all over the country that come to me for eyeliner. They want black eyeliner. They put liquid eyeliner on every single day.
Right.
And that's what these women want. That's what they're paying me for. They want to come in and they pay me a bunch of money for black eyeliner. So I use high saturation techniques. That's what I've really mastered over the years, and I'm very, very good at it. And maybe on 30% of my clients, I do get some swelling where you're like, ooh, she really,
right.
She really got a little poofy.
Right.
Most of my clients, it's pretty normal, mild to, normal puffiness, but maybe 30%, it's like, I don't know what the hell. They just got really super swollen and red. And every now and then I'll post that because it's honest.
Yeah.
And it's transparent. But I posted an eyeliner and it was very minimal swelling, but it was black and it was solid. And this is exactly what this client paid me for. And it looked really good on her, suited her. And yeah, someone called it out as old school. So this new industry of artists thinks or refers to as high saturation work as old school. And I would have no problem with that, Ren. I don't mind the term. It's the disrespect behind that term.
Right.
It's being used disrespectfully, that term. It's not being used as a compliment or a term to describe high saturation work. It's being used to reduce the artist, to dismiss the work, it's used offensively. And I don't understand, how did we get here as an industry, you guys? We are an artistic industry. We are supposed to be vast and versatile. People are colorful. What we do is colorful. And we should be versatile if you so choose to be. If you don't choose to be versatile and you choose to be one way, use, one type, that's totally fine. That's your choice. There's nothing wrong with that. I choose to be versatile. I choose to use all kinds of different needles, do high saturation for my clients that want it, do medium saturation for my clients that want it, and do low saturation for my clients that want it. And I should be able to do all that type of work, and post it without being called or referred to offensively. No artist should have to face that. And let me tell you this, in body tattooing, they use the word old school, but it's used as a term of respect, admiration, right? American traditional tattoos, the first type of tattooing to ever hit America back in the 50s. They called it like Sailor Jerry tattooing at first. And because it was like anchors and sparrows. And, my whole arm is all American traditional tattooing. It's done with three main colors, red, yellow, green. And the outline is big, bold lines. My artist, a guy named Swarm here in town, used an 8-round liner to outline all my American traditional tattoos. Yeah, but it's a certain style, right? Big, bold lines, red, green, yellow, and the imagery is really recognizable. You recognize American traditional imagery, right? Yeah. That is considered old school. And they use that term all the time to describe it. They use the term old school to describe artists that only do that type of work. But old school in body tattooing, like I said, is used as a term of endearment, respect. And, American traditional tattooing, Americana tattooing, is not going anywhere. It will be here. It's more popular today than it ever has been before. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. But like I said, and same with high saturation brows, eyeliner, lips. That is just as popular today as it ever been in permanent makeup. And high saturation request and work is not going anywhere. It is not going anywhere. It will always be here. It will always be popular. There will always be clients wanting it. And there'll always be artists doing it. Yeah. But like I said, it bothers me that in PMU, the term old school is used offensively. But in body tattooing, it's used respectfully. And I don't understand that. I don't understand my own industry. Yeah. And how we got here. You. Yeah.
It didn't even get this bad when I first came in, right? Because I came in almost right at the perfect time before they switched the standard of American permanent makeup education to just being 2 different needle types and 2 different movements, right? And so I think I got there right beforehand. What's funny is I feel like just in the last year more than ever, because I like to say I specialize in ombre. I love doing ombre. A lot of my social media has been towards doing ombre, and that is maybe only 50% of what I do. Yeah. And exactly like what you're mentioning, if I do maybe a powder brow or even something like an ombre brow where it's incredibly, more on the quote unquote solid side when it's fresh, I'm so scared to post it.
And you shouldn't be.
Yeah. But when it's healed and it looks gorgeous, I'll post it.
But this industry should recognize, right? Yeah. This industry and artists that comprise this industry should recognize that is a high saturated brow you just did and you just posted. Yeah. They should recognize that. Yeah. Rather than blasting you as being, doing old school work. Right. And they almost say like old school work, like nobody wants that anymore. It's like.
You guys are turning down a lot of clientele.
They're turning down a ton of clients. Well, let's just talk about cultures, right? Like different cultures even really prefer more of a high saturation look. Certain age groups do. There's high saturation work is not going anywhere in this industry. And look, if somebody comes in and requests, let's say you're an artist, like you're listening to this podcast right now, and you're an artist who you're mostly single needle, or you do single needle, maybe 3 liner, and you do whip shading, and you specialize in, that lower saturated look, which is beautiful. But let's say you start having clients coming in, and that's just not enough. They want a more solid, striking look, which can look beautiful on so many different women, right? On some women, it would look ridiculous. Some women, we have to tell them, I'm not sure you could quite pull off a more solid, striking eyebrow. So let's say you start getting requests. My question for more high saturated brows or eyeliner. I think eyeliner more so. Definitely they want higher saturation. Yeah. Are you, what would you rather do? Would you rather take 3 sessions, possibly 4, to reach that high saturation level your client is requesting, with your single needle and the whip shading and the techniques that you know? Or if I told you there are needles and movements you can learn, I could teach you, or somebody that does a style could teach you how to get to that high saturation in 1 session, maybe 2, and it still looks beautiful. It doesn't look like a hard sticker. I mean, it looks good on that particular client.
Right.
Which route would you choose? I would think, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think they would want to learn the needles and the movements that are going to get them to higher saturation in fewer sessions, rather than taking the long way there, right?
Right.
And having to do multiple sessions to reach the saturation level the client wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would think. And it's better for the clients. It's better for the client's skin, the integrity of their skin. And most clients, if you ask clients are going to tell you, no, learn the new, no. Learn the new needles and movements and get this done. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
1 or 2 sessions is fine. But if I have to come back 3 or 4 times, then sometimes clients get a little pissy with that.
They do. And
then
then
your
your word
you're-
of mouth is dropped.
Yeah. Or they think you're incompetent. We've
Yeah.
had, we had an email not too long ago, and that's what she said. She had a client that told her she's incompetent because she can't give her the high saturation brows that the client paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So this artist reached out to us for advice, and the word incompetent really bothered her.
It would bother me too. That would break my heart.
Yeah. But you could see why a client would think, I mean, that's a harsh term to use, to call somebody incompetent. But you can understand why maybe the client got there. Maybe her patience ran out. Maybe she keeps explaining to the artist, look, I want it to look like this. I want solid color. And, every time I leave and it heals, it's not solid. It's not high saturation. It's still super low in saturation.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, yeah, I just, I don't know. It's just been bothering me lately, and I wanted to talk about it. I'm anxious to see what our listeners think about this. And I'm wondering if they've even thought of it from this point of view, right?
Yeah.
Right?